Most garden problems don't show up immediately. They build slowly, quietly, underground. A plant that looks healthy today can be the reason your soil fails next year. And what makes this worse is that many of these plants are recommended, shared, and even praised. Today, we're slowing down and correcting that. If you care about soil, long-term gardens, and learning what actually works instead of what's popular, subscribe to this channel. At number 1 comes morning glory, and its scientific name is Ipomea purpurea. People plant morning glory because it grows fast and looks beautiful. It climbs fences, walls, and trellises easily. For new gardeners, it feels rewarding because it covers space quickly with flowers. Historically, morning glory has been grown for centuries as an ornamental vine. In some cultures, its seeds were even used medicinally, but it was never meant to live alongside food crops in small spaces. Here's the problem. Morning glory doesn't just climb upward, it spreads outward and downward. Its vines wrap tightly around other plants, restricting growth and blocking sunlight. Underground, its root system competes aggressively for water and nutrients. Even worse, morning glory produces seeds that remain viable in soil for years. Once it escapes control, it keeps coming back long after you think it's gone. The safest way to plant morning glory is never directly in open garden soil. If you truly want it, grow it in containers with controlled trellises far from vegetable beds. Otherwise, it slowly turns your garden into a tangle you can't undo. At number 2 comes Jerusalem artichoke, and its scientific name is Helianthus tuberosus. People plant Jerusalem artichoke because it's advertised as a survival crop. It produces edible tubers, grows in poor soil, and needs very little care. For many gardeners, that sounds perfect. Historically, Jerusalem artichoke was cultivated by Native American tribes long before European contact. It was valued because it returned every year and survived harsh conditions. But what made it valuable historically is exactly what makes it dangerous in modern gardens. Jerusalem artichoke spreads underground through tubers. Every small piece left behind becomes a new plant. Over time, it forms dense colonies that drain soil nutrients and crowd out everything else. Once planted without containment, it becomes nearly impossible to remove completely. The safest way to grow Jerusalem artichoke is in barrels, raised beds with solid barriers, or isolated plots where spreading doesn't matter. Never plant it casually in open soil. At number 3 comes comfrey, and its scientific name is Symphytum officinale. People plant comfrey because it's often called a miracle plant. It's praised for compost, mulch, and mineral accumulation. Many gardeners are told comfrey improves soil. And that's partially true. Historically, comfrey was used in Europe as a medicinal plant and later as a fodder crop. Farmers noticed its deep roots pulled minerals upward, making it useful in specific systems. But comfrey's strength is also its danger. Comfrey develops extremely deep taproots. Once planted, it cannot be removed unless every piece of root is dug out. Even small fragments regenerate into new plants. In small gardens, comfrey competes aggressively for nutrients and space. When planted too close to crops, it slowly weakens surrounding soil balance. The safest way to plant comfrey is to use sterile varieties that do not self-seed and to place it far from vegetable beds, ideally as a controlled nutrient plant, not a companion crop. This is where most gardeners make the mistake. They hear useful and assume safe. But usefulness without boundaries always creates problems. And we're not done yet. By now, one thing should already feel uncomfortable. Most of the plants we're talking about weren't planted by accident. People chose them, trusted them, were told they were safe. That's why the damage lasts so long. Let's continue. At number 4 comes raspberry, and its scientific name is Rubus idaeus. People plant raspberries because they want easy fruit year after year. Raspberries feel generous. Once planted, they return every season and produce without much effort. Historically, raspberries grew wild across Europe and parts of Asia. They spread naturally at forest edges, where space was open and competition was low. In those environments, their spreading nature wasn't a problem. But gardens are not forests. Raspberries spread through underground runners. These runners move silently beneath the soil and emerge far from the original plant. Over time, raspberry roots invade nearby beds, tangle with other roots, and pull nutrients from surrounding crops. Soil becomes crowded, air movement decreases, diseases spread faster. The safest way to plant raspberries is with root barriers or in dedicated rows far from vegetables. Regular pruning is not optional, it's necessary. Without control, raspberries slowly turn productive soil into tangled territory. At number 5 comes wisteria, and its scientific name is Wisteria sinensis. People plant wisteria because it's stunning, cascading flowers, thick vines, strong fragrance. It's often planted to decorate homes, pergolas, and garden entrances. Historically, wisteria was grown in East Asia, where it climbed large trees and had space to expand. In those environments, its strength was balanced by scale. But in home gardens, wisteria has no limits. Wisteria grows with force. Its roots spread wide and deep. Its vines thicken over time, crushing supports, blocking sunlight, and starving the soil beneath. Very little grows well under mature wisteria because nutrients and moisture are constantly pulled away. Once established, wisteria becomes a permanent structure rather than a plant. The safest way to grow wisteria is only where nothing else needs to grow and where heavy pruning is done every single year. In small gardens, it's often better avoided entirely. Now here's the part that matters most. None of these plants are bad. They are simply too powerful to be planted casually. The real problem isn't the plant, it's advice that ignores time. Gardens don't fail suddenly. Soil doesn't collapse overnight. Damage happens slowly, season by season, until productivity drops, pests increase, and nothing seems to work anymore. When that happens, people blame compost, fertilizer, weather, or themselves. But the cause was often planted years earlier. Strong gardens come from restraint, not abundance, from boundaries, not speed, from understanding what happens underground, not just what looks good above it. If you take one thing from this video, let it be this. Before planting anything, ask what it does to the soil, not just this season, but the next 5. That question changes everything. If this helped you see gardening differently, subscribe to Rooted Truths. We don't chase trends here. We look at what lasts.